Hello, my name is Nelson. This video is for the hands-on knowledge workers wanting to gain the additional analytical skills for building a great mission-critical system. Project management was our first topic of this series. This is the second topic. In this short video, we're going to review how business analysis can be conducted so user requirements can be met with satisfaction. Business analysis is about doing the right thing. Doing the wrong thing right is wrong. Just doing the right thing is not good enough. We have to do the right thing. This is a true story. I was annoyed by the boxing bell ding sound on my 12-year-old boy's phone. Upon request, he turned off the notification right away. Problem is that was not the first time, and I know it will happen again. A better solution is needed. It turns out he had notification on at the highest volume. Problem solved if he can lower the notification volume and change to a more pleasant sound. To be successful in business analysis, the following tips can come in handy. They happen to be all starting with the letter C. They are communicate, be consistent, copy, and comprehend. First, communication is key in getting the requirements right. When in doubt, ask. Never assume, because assume is spelled as you and me. Secondly, make sure that the proposed solution is consistent with the context of the business and the rest of the systems. Mind this S, because there may be more than one system. Thirdly, do not reinvent the wheel. Copying could be a sure win if there's an existing solution already proven. Last but not least, understanding why customer wants what they want often bring a new level of understanding. By putting yourself in their shoes can be a good tactic. In order to do the right thing, bear in mind that we need to verify every requirement prior to creating a solution. We shall begin by defining the responsibility of a business analyst, then introduce fundamental techniques such as problem solving, effective communication, and storyboarding. Finally, there's a framework commonly used for data analysis. This was introduced by John Sidemen in the 1980s. It is a logical structure intended to provide a comprehensive representation of an information technology enterprise. We call that an ontology. Sidemen Framework is a matrix. The rows are transformers, and the columns are called interrogatives. An example will be used to illustrate how to use this framework to perform the what or data analysis. The rest of the interrogatives, how, where, who, when, and why, can be extrapolated from the example given. The primary function of a business analyst is to ask questions that uncover requirements, then to document those requirements so that they may be developed into a usable system. Therefore, the responsibility of a business analyst are ask questions to uncover requirements, create solutions that align business with information technology, document the requirements, and communicate that to all team members. Prepare the answers for the interrogatives, what, how, where, who, when, and why, which translates to data, process, distribution, permission, timing, and motivation. 3 fundamental techniques can be useful in business analysis. In my opinion, they're equally important. In problem solving, if we're not ready for the problem is not ready for us. Mentally, we need to be prepared and confident that it can be done. I cannot overemphasize the importance of finding the real problem. There is a saying, understanding the real problem is half the solution. The quality of the solution we come up with will be in direct proportion to the quality of the description of the problem we are trying to solve. I believe Einstein said that. It is also important to prioritize permanent solutions over temporary ones. Ideally, the problem can be duplicated so that various alternatives can be tested against to come up with the best solution. In general, the following steps can apply to most situations. If possible, visualize the end result when problem is solved. Sketch out all possible scenarios and alternatives. Use process of elimination to isolate and identify the real problem. Try proven solution that has solved a similar problem in the past. Determine the impact of the solution. Collaborate with the right people when implementing the solution. Fine-tune and address all the impediments uncovered along the way. We can say something wrong, other people can hear it wrong. Worst case scenario, both. No wonder communication can be so hard. It is important that we ask all the tough questions up front to get the requirements right and encourage others to do the same whenever they have a question. Storyboarding is the process to provide viewers with a higher level view of project via graphic or illustration. It is capable of gathering and sharing information about who, what, and why, which translates into users, tasks, and objects. It can put a human face on boring data and trigger new thoughts and innovation. It also encourages collaboration because people can assimilate better through stories, and they can visualize the system before it is built. All in all, storytelling can enhance user experience. The Sidemen Framework has been a popular framework used in business analysis. It looks complicated, but it shouldn't be. Once you understand, this is just a way to document how we think. Allow me to explain this in a simple and easy to understand way. The diagram is an ontology typically depicted as a bounded 6x6 matrix with the what, how, where, who, when, and why as columns, and we call them interrogatives. The rows have 6 levels of interpretations, and we call them transformations. The aim is to fill in the blanks, that is, the cells or intersection between the interrogatives and the transformations. Think of it this way. Any system requirements must have characteristics of what, how, where, who, when, and why. And depending on who we're talking to, we need to tell them in a different way so everyone can understand it. Let's start with the roles. There are 6 transformations. People with different expertise tend to describe the same requirements differently. It is important for a business analyst to be able to translate in such a way that it can be communicated to all levels of stakeholders and team members so a usable system can be developed. For instance, the executives would identify the requirements. Their understanding is based on the context or circumstances. The business people would define the same requirements conceptually. The data architects or systems analysts would logically represent the requirements from a system point of view. The engineers or developers would specify the requirement using the underlying technology. The technicians would configure the requirements on specific hardware. The enterprise or users would utilize the system as the requirements are implemented in the real world. There are 6 columns of interrogatives: what, how, where, who, when, and why. What or the data describe the entities that are considered important to the business as viewed from each perspective of the different levels of transformations. How or the functions define the activities that the enterprise is concerned about relative to each perspective. Where or the networks show the geographic locations and interconnections among the activities within the enterprise. Who or the people represent the people within the enterprise and metrics for assessing their capabilities. When or the timing represent time or the event relationships that establish performance criteria. This is useful for designing schedules and timing systems. Why or the motivation describe the motivations of the people and the enterprise. It is concerned with how the goals and strategy are translated into specific ends and means. Coming up, we shall illustrate how to apply this framework to describe the first column, the what, or data, from each of the 6 transformations. For example, the executive may say, let's invoice the customer for the service rendered. That is the contextual level notice the nouns being highlighted. They are invoice, customer, and services. Conceptually, we have three entities: the service rendered, the invoice listing the service with charges to the customer that has name, address, etc. The business people can understand this. Logically, we have four relational tables: the service tables that captures all the services available, the invoice header table that summarizes the charges, the invoice detail table that lists all the services rendered. One invoice header record can have many invoice detail records. The customer table that captures name and address of the customer. Data architects or systems analysts would understand this. The underlying technology in this case most likely is a database server. The engineer or developers would need to specify the size and characteristic of each field on those tables so they can physically create it on the database server. In this example, we have chosen a Microsoft SQL Server. Technicians would install and configure this specific database server on specific hardware so that these tables with their respective fields can be created to run properly and securely over the appropriate network. When all the requirements are tested thoroughly, it may be ready for deployment. In this case, we have chosen a cloud server, so everything is installed and configured in the cloud for the enterprise or users to operate. So far, we have applied the 6 transformation on what? The data. The same can be done on the rest of the 5 interrogatives, that is, how to transform using processes, where to host what, for example, the client tier, root tier, or the data tier, who can create, read, update, or delete what, when to serve what data, and why, so right requirements is met at the end. Have fun. These are the takeaways. Business analysis is about doing the right thing. Problem solving, effective communication, and storytelling techniques are essential skills in business analysis. Using Sidemen Framework to communicate the requirements easily to all stakeholders and team members. These are the references for further reading. Thank you for watching. In the next video, we shall discuss how to conduct business process and rule modelings while developing a mission-critical database application.